On a quiet street called Sudbury Avenue, Nisha Patel seemed to have it all. From the outside looking in, her life was perfect. A booming business, a husband who seemed to adore her, and she was a pillar of her community. But that flawless image, it was hiding a really dark secret. A whole web of lies that would ultimately end with her murder. This is a tragic story of betrayal, and it all starts on that quiet suburban street.
So picture this. It's May 11th, 2006. The whole neighborhood is quiet, and then suddenly, these blood-curdling screams just rip through the silence. Neighbors run to their windows, and what they see is just a complete nightmare. Nisha is on the ground right outside her own home, clutching her stomach with a dark stain spreading across the pavement.
Her brother, Caton, got there and saw a scene that he said just left him with no hope. A trail of blood leading right to her door. At the hospital, the doctors did everything they could, but a single stab wound to her groin had hit a major artery, and in less than 30 minutes after the attack, Nisha Patel was gone. She was only 29 years old.
To really understand why something this horrible could happen, we have to take a look at the life Nisha had built for herself. Because the difference between how things looked and how they actually were, well, it's absolutely shocking.
Nisha was a total force of nature. Get this, at just 18, she opened her own beauty salon called Perfections. And, on top of that, she was a volunteer police officer, a special constable, serving the very same community she grew up in. For her family, she was their rock, known for just having this incredible energy and being fiercely loyal.
And right there by her side was her husband, Fahd Nasseri. Publicly, their relationship looked like something out of a romance novel. They were always holding hands, kissing. They were that couple. He seemed to be the perfect supportive partner to this incredibly successful woman.
But that perfect foundation, it was built on sand. It was cracking under the weight of some major deception. Behind that charming smile, Fahd Nasseri was hiding some pretty dark secrets.
In private, Nisha was getting really frustrated. She even started confiding in her friends, calling her husband a dosser, which, is basically a lazy, disorganized person who just doesn't pull their weight. She was carrying the financial burden for their entire life, and you can imagine she was getting completely overwhelmed by it.
And the imbalance in their marriage was just stark. Look at this. While Nisha is building a legitimate business and serving her community, Fahd was secretly running an escort agency. He had a prison record, connections to the criminal underworld. Every single part of their lavish lifestyle, from their house to their limo business, was paid for entirely by Nisha and her family. He contributed nothing.
The danger became terrifyingly real just 5 days before she was killed. 2 men literally tried to break into their house with a crowbar. Her brother, Caton, was terrified and begged her to leave, to come stay with him where she'd be safe. But Nisha, she was fiercely independent. She refused. She said she would not be intimidated or scared out of her own home.
So, when the police started their investigation, Fahd, of course, played the part of the grieving husband perfectly. But that little performance started to fall apart pretty quickly, and it exposed the killer who was hiding in plain sight the whole time.
At first, investigators thought, okay, maybe a robbery gone wrong, but nothing was stolen. Then, Fahd casually mentions that a house key had gone missing recently. And with no signs of a break-in, that detail was huge. It suggested the killer didn't need to force their way in. They already had a key.
And then, Fahd's whole story just completely shattered. While they were looking through his phone, detectives found pictures of another woman, a woman named Laura Machine. Fahd had to confess to a secret affair. He even admitted he'd taken a trip to Egypt with her right before the murder. So much for the grieving husband. He was living a complete double life.
The affair was just the tip of the iceberg. From there, the evidence just started to pile up. Phone records connected Fahd to a known criminal enforcer on the night of the murder. A silver Audi with a broken taillight was spotted on CCTV near a storm drain where, guess what? They eventually found the murder weapon. And then, the final nail in the coffin, a confession from an accomplice that just blew the whole case wide open.
So this wasn't a random attack. It wasn't a robbery. No, this was a meticulously planned murder-for-hire plot. Fahd was the mastermind. He used his criminal contact, a guy named Roger Leslie, to hire a hitman, Jason Jones. And the getaway driver, Tony Emanuel, he was the one who confessed and tied them all together.
But what on earth could motivate a man to have his own wife murdered? The very woman who supported his entire existence? Well, the answer, as it so often is, was money.
It turns out Fode was absolutely drowning in debt. We're talking over £100,000 owed to private lenders and loan sharks. The pressure was immense, but he kept up this whole facade of being a successful businessman to Nisha and her family.
And that's where we find the smoking gun. Just a few months before she was killed, Foda had taken out a massive £350,000 life insurance policy on Nisha, and he made himself the sole beneficiary. Her death wasn't just his way out of his problems, it was his payday.
But the betrayal didn't even end with her murder. It's just sickening. After the trial, some tabloids started hinting that Nisha was somehow involved in her husband's disgusting escort business. It was like a second, devastating blow to her family, who now had to defend her memory against these awful lies.
Thankfully, an internal investigation finally set the record straight and completely cleared Nisha's name. It confirmed what her family and friends knew all along. She had absolutely no idea about Fode's criminal activities. She was a victim. Period. Not an accomplice.
And this just leaves us with a really unsettling thought. Fode Nasri and his whole crew were convicted. They were sent to prison. But when a killer's betrayal goes beyond death, when they use lies to attack the memory of the very person they murdered, it just makes you ask, can justice ever truly be complete?